Hi, everybody. So just to introduce ourselves, in fact, the last time I did a webinar with you guys was when we grew to the largest marketplace in just 6 months. And we actually did that with SEO only. And since then, we launched our in-house agency called New Optima, which does now not only SEO, but also other stuff like email marketing, Amazon PPC, normal PPC, and we acquired an Amazon brand since then as well called 96 North. So if you're into scented candles, please go on Amazon and buy that one. So we're here to obviously talk about SEO, and Aman, who will cover the second part of the webinar, is our head of growth. So he leads and oversees various growth strategies of ours. And then we have functional specialists reporting into him, be it in PPC, email marketing, or SEO, with Victor, who is not joining us today, but whoever is joining us tomorrow at the accelerator, he will be there talking about a case study. Cool. So maybe very quickly, why SEO? So as you can see, the costs for SEO are actually declining over time, versus for PPC, they're usually increasing over time. And so the way you have to think about SEO is like investment into an asset. You're investing really in the strength of your domain, which means initially costs seem extremely high because you actually don't rank, you just write content and maybe get backlinks, and you don't get traffic until maybe month 3. But over time, depending on your niche, you actually start seeing traffic. And what's interesting is once you even switch off any new content writing, you actually keep most of the traffic you have built up, versus with PPC, what you usually have is depending on the niche and depending on the competition, you might be lucky and PPC works for you once you get a great creative and great keyword. But then once you have that figured out, most likely your competitor also figures it out, and then it actually stops working again. And on top of that, it is an auction-based mechanism on Google, Facebook, Instagram, Pinterest, TikTok, etc. So that means actually that the more players there are in your niche, the more expensive it gets if everybody's bidding on the same keyword. Another, I guess, important thing is that while we are talking only about SEO today, when you look at your marketing strategy, of course, you want to consider other channels as well. Outbound sales is probably the most effective sale from the beginning, especially founder-led, especially when you're in your kind of pre-seed, seed stage. But then that's not very, very scalable. And so what you really want is to build up a second and maybe a third channel which can scale. For us, it's SEO. We are working actually at the moment on podcasts as well. For some other brands, especially in fashion, social media works really, really well. But as you can see, for example, with Google ads, yes, they might be working for you initially, but then again, they really decline in effectiveness. And then I think one missing here, which is very, very effective, is usually out of home. So people actually still watch TV, surprisingly. It's just there is a very high portion of population which does watch TV, look at billboards. That's super, super effective, especially if you're a consumer brand. And that, again, can be used in parallel with your other efforts, such as SEO, for example. So how does one look at SEO, and like what is actually SEO, right? So if you go back in, I guess, the mid 90s and late 90s, when Google only started their business, the whole concept was let's find best ranking sites by the number of backlinks that site has. So similar to an academic journal, where the more a journal or an academic piece is quoted by other academic research, the more weight and the more kind of quality there is behind that academic piece. And so similarly, in the early days, the Google algorithm was ranking sites higher with more backlinks. over time, what they introduce, of course, is also content. And content is important because, of course, you really want to rank for certain keywords. So the more relevant content you have, the higher you rank. And then the metric domain rating is usually defined by the number of referring domains, so unique backlinks, which is, again, like you see there, there's backlinks on the one hand, and then there's referring domains on the other hand. Backlinks is just referring domains, but they also count duplicate ones. So if you say, if you have, I don't know, TechCrunch giving you 2, 3, 4 times a mention, that's only one referring domain, but it's 3 or 4 times a backlink. So ultimately, domain authority, domain rating, again, some tools use a different label. This is Ahrefs, there is SEMrush, there are a bunch of other tools. So sometimes, again, they say domain rating or domain authority is defined usually by the number of backlinks you have. And then there is how many keywords your site was indexed for. And so you can see this is this. And so the sum is basically what really drives your organic traffic. And so this number here, again, if you use Ahrefs, and you can just subscribe, I think there's like a 2-week free period or something like that. And generally, it's not a very expensive tool, and it's very useful. This is the traffic value. So it's like if BBC would be bidding for all the keywords they currently list or they rank for, and they would be bidding on them on Google Ads, so PPC, that is the theoretical value they would need to pay every month to rank where they are, right? So basically, in short, because BBC has because of the great SEO BBC has, the traffic value they generate is equivalent to $237 million a month. So if they wouldn't have the same SEO power, that's what they would need to pay to rank where they rank right now. And then in terms of other factors which help you rank, so we discussed backlinks very briefly, and of course we will now explain it in a case study with Aman walking you through for company, one of our clients, Spirulina health drink brand. But backlinks is one, content is another one, and then the 2 other ones which we will discuss again, we discussed them in our webinar a bit more in the accelerator, but in general, behavioral factors are factors around how long is the user staying on your site. So for example, if you have really good content and you want to basically, I don't know, learn how to spearfish, for example, right? And you basically start reading and there is a great video and there are more infographics, then of course you will stay on that site. But if you actually come to the site which ranks for spearfishing and there are just a bunch of trips somebody wants to sell to you without any good content, then of course you bounce. And so Google takes that factor of how long you stay on the website as a very, very important factor, which basically correlates with really the quality of the content you have. Other factors are, for example, if you have cross links on your page to other articles you've written before. So for example, you say, okay, again, spearfishing article, and you're reading about various harpoons you can use, right? And then basically there's a link to ultimate guide to harpoons article you wrote. So the user then goes to that other article and reads about the various types of basically guns you can use to hunt fish, and you can basically scroll through, and then from that article you might go to another article, you might go back to the article to read it again. So again, that's how you basically encourage the reader to really stay on your site, which again in Google's eyes is really great for SEO as well. And then finally you have tech, which basically means a speed loading of your site, design, UX, and various other factors which are important, but not as important as maybe some people tell you. So usually we say kind of content, it probably makes 60+% of the SEO power and relevance, followed by backlinks, followed by tech and behavioral, basically. But of course, they're all kind of intertwined as well. Cool. So we go now into the live case study, and by the way, we will kind of go through a bunch of that stuff right now, and then of course we have quite a bit of time for Q&A as well. So feel free to post your questions in the chat, and then we basically discuss them at the end. All right, Aman, do you want to share your screen then?
Yeah, can everyone see my screen? I hope you guys can.
Yeah.
Yeah, cool. So yeah, I'll jump through a live case study of a startup that was started by 3 girls who graduated from INSEAD. They did their MBA there, and I'll show you the website right now. So very quickly though, just people mind putting in the chat if they're like a B2C company or a B2B company or something different, just so I have some context. Awesome. So B2B by Gavin, thank you. Awesome. B2B to C, both. Okay, interesting. Cool. Sweet. Okay, awesome. I'll keep it a bit more general then, because this is a B2C case study, but I'll link out some B2B stuff. Can everyone see the full company website? Yeah, cool. Sweet. So full company is a spirulina drinks brand. What that means is spirulina generally, if I Google spirulina right now, you're going to see it only in 2 formats, basically tablets and powders. They were the first brand that came out and said, okay, we want to put it in a drinks format. So super innovative idea and a very interesting perspective where they had basically designed their product to work extremely well on paid social. So there's a reason why it's blue. They knew it would stand out on Facebook ads and TikTok ads. They did a bit of work on PR, but they found that for their product, they were having a paid CAC for their drinks on Facebook of around £80 for a can, for maybe 12 cans. It was incredibly expensive. And they had decent creative, everything seemed to be working, they had good PR. And so they were struggling with the idea that they couldn't find a crackable growth channel where they could put more money in and they can get results out. And there was a various hypotheses around why this was. One being Facebook couldn't find the right audience after the iOS 14 updates. Another being that they had yet to crack other objections such as pricing of their product, or they failed to resonate with the consumer on their ads. So there was quite a few different reasons that something might have been going wrong. But they eventually came to the decision that, look, we need to build up organic anyway, because a lot of people that consume spirulina don't even know a drink format exists. So they were using SEO as an education channel. So for context, they went from 0 to 40K traffic in around 7 months on quite a low budget SEO. And I'm going to explain what we did and how we thought about SEO, which made them, sky balloon in traffic. So the first thing I think is really important to think about is how you choose the keywords and topics. And I'm going to speak quite generally about keywords, where you can use tools like Ahrefs and SEMrush. And I'll ping one open now. And let's say I search spirulina and I look at all the matching terms. There are 33,000 keywords, like 34,000 keywords that are related to spirulina. There is no need for full company to rank for every single keyword. They don't overlap with what their consumer or what their persona is Googling. And also, is it even worth competing for? So certain keywords, for example, let's say spirulina itself, it's a very competitive keyword. So this is a sort of a competition metric. It's roughly and broadly okay or correct even, and it's getting 137,000 search volume. It's super hard to rank for this keyword, but it's easier to rank for keywords such as, I don't know, what is spirulina good for, or what is blue spirulina. And so the goal initially, when you're crafting your SEO strategy and you're thinking, okay, I want to do SEO, where are the wins you can make? Like what are the keywords that say are of the right difficulty, have enough volume that it makes a meaningful difference to your business? And also, and more importantly, is the keywords that your ideal customer persona or your ICP uses. So once you can do that, you're on a really good track, and you can basically download these lists of keywords from all these tools. That's like a commoditized process. Anyone can do that bit. The really interesting bit after is going, okay, how do I create keyword clusters and understand how Google is semantically linking all these pieces together? So you could download a keyword list, look at it very, let's say, one-dimensionally. That's very sort of early 2000s logic. The logic now, say 2022, is how do I create these clusters and how do I group these keywords and how do they all link together? So for example, you want to be thinking the perfect keyword I want to rank for. Let's say you're in the spirulina case, their perfect keyword was spirulina drink. It perfectly describes their product. It has intent behind it. The person that Googles that clearly wants to, make something or buy something. And then you can work out what are the clusters around it that are very similar to what people are Googling. So in the scenario, we found that, antioxidant drinks, healthy soft drinks, best morning drinks, and hangover drinks were very semantically similar to the main keyword, which is spirulina drink. And the key part is you take these keyword lists and you group keywords by, their similarity, and you're able to create these clusters. So for example, if I went on to Full Company now and, let's do some keyword exploring. Let's look at antioxidant drinks. Like there is some good search volume behind that 1,400 search volume. But there are a bunch of keywords that are really similar, which, come up. So if I go to matching terms, there are actually 188 different variations of antioxidant keywords. And some proportion of these are going to be linked to that cluster. So for example, best antioxidant drinks. What do antioxidant drinks do? Are antioxidant drinks good for you? Antioxidant drink benefits. These all, if someone's Googling antioxidant drinks, they still want to understand this information. So all these keywords are really linked together. And again, 2022 Google wants you to give an informationally complete page, which means you don't just need to answer the query that the consumer has right now. You need to answer the query that the consumer has right now and all the follow-up questions as a result. So if I go to 12, I don't know, the best antioxidant drinks. There we go, Full Company's number 2, just below Healthline. And for this scenario, we did the 12 best antioxidant drinks. What do antioxidant drinks do? The top 5 drinks, how to find them. And then we go into a listicle. So as you can see in this very specific scenario, there are multiple keywords that this page is ranking for. And this is really important to consider on like a 2022 sort of SEO level is, sorry, I've got this Zoom thing's in the way. Is that a single page ranks for more than one keyword. So if I look at this page now and I look on to the organic keywords, that page of antioxidant drinks is ranking for 166 different keywords in very, very high positions. And that shows that you need to create one very informationally complete page. And it's very important that you define that cluster very, very well. So Gavin, how did you define that those 4 phrases were like semantically similar? Great point. It's partially a bit of art, partially a bit of science. We are able to figure out what is the ideal customer trying to Google. If someone's searching for spirulina drink, they're generally like quite a health conscious person. They're probably going to have it in the morning. They're probably going for a green shake. You can start to get an idea of who this person is. You can also then look at the terms that people Google around spirulina. And you can generally have a better idea of that persona and what they're trying to do with this drink. Hangover drinks was really interesting. We found that as a product benefit. And so we were able to link that into as well. So there are various ways to look at it. So yeah, after we do these keyword clusters, we're able to start ranking these pages really highly. And it's all under this idea of topical authority. So I don't know if you've ever heard this phrase before. Everyone usually hears of the phrase domain rating or domain authority. And it's the same, metric that I showed over here. And the reason why everyone uses these terms is because it's the most simplest to understand. Like there's a synthetic metric for it. It's out of 100, it kind of makes sense. But there's this second idea of topical authority, which says Google will rank you above other, high domain rating sites if you are an expert in that topic. So for all your websites and all your startups that you have right now, you guys are experts in your specific category or sub niche or subcategory. The more you write content about that specific topic, you will rank above other competitors who are incumbents or, you know, who have been around for years. Like, you will rank above them purely because you can demonstrate that you are a real true expert on that sub niche and subtopic. And that's why it's really important to define that, you know, what you're trying to achieve very, very well and completely own it in SEO. So from an example of For Company, if I go to Ahrefs and I look at, say, their top pages. So let's say, like, how often should I drink chlorophyll water, or can you drink chlorophyll, whatever that keyword is. You'll see for this keyword, can you drink chlorophyll, For Company comes up first. We're above Healthline, which is technically domain rating 92. For Company is domain rating 29. We're above the likes of WebMD, which, if you've ever like Googled, you know, I have a you know, dodgy knee or whatever, and you get, you know, suggested some fixes and tips from WebMD or whatever, you know who they are. Again, this whole, let's say, SERP, or these top 10 rankings are incredibly well-known pieces. There's Forbes as well, but For Company is able to rank above them. It's not because their domain rating has higher. As we know, the DR is very, very low. It's purely because they have topical authority. They have a niche which they completely own, and Google recognizes that they are ranking for lots of semantically similar terms in that niche. So this is what happens, again, when you focus on SEO and you do it right. You can completely win and own a category. So the result of which is, For Company, in their scenario, when you do it right, you can be ranking for every main keyword that you care about. So, for example, let's say they're ranking for best post-drink workout drink. They're ranking for detox drinks for weed, hangover drink, coffee alternative for energy, post-workout drink. What does spirulina taste like? Spirulina pregnancy. How long does it take for chlorophyll to work? All these keywords are very, very focused on drinks, health, benefits, best electrolyte drink. And because of, you know, doing this as a group and very well, you can see really, really interesting data. Cool. So this is really good and well, and we can get For Company in, let's say, 7 months to have 40,000 search traffic coming to their site on really interesting blog pages that look like this. But the next question we usually get is, okay, how does this convert to leads, and how does this convert to sales? And like leads in the B2B sense, and let's say sales in the B2C e-com sense. There are various ways to do it. So the first way, which there's say 2 different ways I've explained here, and there's a third way I'll hint at in a minute. But what you can do is you can start putting native conversion blocks inside your blog pieces. So these are like native call to actions. So for example, on a blog post that is the 12 best spirulina brands. So I can even Google that now. So 12 best spirulina brands. For Company comes up first. We straight away get hit by like a native conversion block, which is, you know, their products listed as first. So they get to define who the 12 best are. And of course, they're first. And that's a native conversion block. Similarly, you'll see HubSpot do it in the sense of having sort of content upgrades. So if I search, I don't know, HubSpot social media templates, or whatever it is, when you go on HubSpot, you're hit by a content upgrade. So you can get something for free, and you can scroll, you can get it for free again, you can get it for free here, you can get it for free here, etc. So this is one way where you can capture the leads in the journey or in the process of reading your article. The second way you can capture it is quite interesting, is when you have contextual pop-ups. So a lot of the time people will, you know, have like a 15% off code, or they will have, you know, speak to a consultant, whatever that call to action is. Or you can simply just have a contextual pop-up, say on the keyword or on the page, the 12 best drinks for hangovers. You can have the keyword or the pop-up, sorry, that says fight your hangovers with spirulina. Click to learn more. And in our scenario, all we were trying to do as a goal was convert this blog traffic that was coming in and just slightly guide them down the funnel into product page traffic. So we want to see if we can get them to show some intent for the product benefits or the product itself. So what you saw as a result is previously very little traffic was getting to the product page. They were not running any more Facebook ads. It was purely blog page traffic. And the second we started turning on these contextual pop-ups, contextual native conversion blocks, the traffic to the product page started increasing rapidly, which means people are now going from awareness stage of where they understand what your brand is to the second stage where they're in consideration, where they're going, okay, look, there's a product that exists. I'm now aware that there is a third type of spirulina that I can ingest or that I can have. And as a result of you sending this product page traffic, you're indicating to Google that the consumer is actually interested going further down your funnel. They're genuinely interested in the product you're selling. And so as a result, all those bottom funnel keywords, let's say spirulina drinks, top spirulina brands, best spirulina, full spirulina drink, all these keywords get pushed up the ranking because you're showing that traffic and you're showing behavioral ranking factors are pushing into play. These are two very cool ways of converting blog traffic to buying traffic. The third way, which is really, really interesting and is actually leveraging PPC, is to create all the pixels on your website and actually retarget all this blog traffic. So Full Company initially came to us saying, look, we can't target the right people on Facebook. They don't know we exist. They don't know who we are, etc. Now they have 40,000 people a month who already are qualified in some form to want spirulina or to want the benefits of spirulina. So now Full Company has an ability to run ads to 40,000 people a month that are already pre-qualified. The CPM or the cost to advertising will be slightly higher, but the click-through rates, the engagement rates are a hell of a lot higher because as soon as you go through them, they're already being exposed to your brand and you're re-exposing to them. They're re-exposing your brand to them. And so after the contextual pop-up and click to learn more, where does it take the user? Yep, it takes the user to the product page. So for example, the 12 best drinks for hangover, whatever it is, essentially you click on this and eventually you land on the product page where they get to sell. And there's some reviews and benefits, etc. No worries. So this is one way where you can do it in the B2C side, which is very sort of plain. The same thing can happen for B2B, where you can have awareness blogs around your product, around your offering. Say, for example, you're a cybersecurity company and you are selling, I don't know, penetration testing services. There are a lot of blogs you can have around, how to do it, what's the best ways to go about it, etc. And all that traffic that you're collecting on the blog level can then get retargeted, either by, say, paid social, LinkedIn ads, Google retargeting ads, or you can chuck it into tools like Clearbit or Leadfeeder. This is if you're in very expensive B2B services, where you can track the IP of the user and you can connect it to a company and then have your outbound sales team going and calling up that company in advance. So that's two ways where you can retarget this really valuable blog traffic on the B2B side as well. Awesome. Does anyone have any specific questions about Full Company right now and the study I walked you through? Or even generally, maybe we can even, Alexi, should we go into Q&A now? What do you think?
Yeah. I also just copied and pasted the accelerator link for tomorrow. I just gonna touch on that in a second. But yeah, guys, put more questions into the chat and we go through them.
Chasing IP address sounds like a clear violation of GDPR. I don't think it is. I think it's sharing data, but again, I might not be right. You never know. There's like companies like Leadfeeder. I'll send them in. And Clearbit, I think they're like a $100 million company or something that do a lot of it, but I don't know. How do you run SEO when you have multiple business categories in your marketplace? For instance, home services have about 30 to 40 business categories like window cleaning, domestic cleaning, gardening, etc. Yeah, super interesting question. We're actually going into this in more detail tomorrow. But as a sort of beginning to it, it's about creating category pages. So we own a CBD marketplace. The categories on that CBD marketplace, if I showed you now, so let's go on alphagreen.io. You could argue, look, so CBD also has multiple categories. We have CBD oil, CBD vape, CBD edibles, CBD gummies for relief, for mind, for sleep. And we are able to create multiple categories that are able to meet multiple different search intents. So Rajesh, the answer would be you need to have multiple pages that are aligned and specific to those category pages.
Yeah, that's actually almost like a benefit of your business model for SEO, if you can actually create more category pages. And then on top of category pages, you can then have brand pages as well. I mean, if you look at alphagreen.io, there's basically a brand page. And so you can then, in addition to targeting categories, you can actually target certain brands. And for example, if you look at Farfetch, they sometimes even rank higher than certain brands, because their domain authority is higher than, for example, of maybe a new boutique luxury brand. And so that's an actual big benefit of marketplaces in general.
Yeah, I think even Farfetch, if you look at them now, like they're going to have so many it's like it's all about categories here. Like their brands will be category pages as well. It'll be absolutely crazy. It's pretty powerful. Is there such a thing as posting too much content to your website? How often should you add content to your site? Great question. I'm going to very quickly open up my HubSpot link that I got sent yesterday by a friend, and they basically had to rerun this little thing saying basically how much traffic do websites get as a function of how many pages they have. And the general correlation is that the more pages you have, the more traffic you get. So there is no such thing as posting too much content, provided your content is of good quality. So the more often you can add it, the better, is the short answer to that. What do you recommend in terms of approach to blog content other than keyword selection? What kind of length? Yeah, Jules. So this is related to, once you say you have your keyword cluster identified, determining all the other bits to your content piece. For example, what is that content piece going to look like? Is it a list? Is it a in-depth blog piece? Is it a how-to guide? Those sort of questions will very quickly determine what that content looks like. And you know those answers by looking on Google for that search term. What is Google preferentially showing to query givers or people that are Googling? And therefore you get an idea of what does Google want to see. And if you check the word length for each of those pieces, you generally have an idea of what they're favoring. As long as you are better than the best piece of content on Google, you will rank first. You kind of have to approach it this way.
Yeah. Maybe just all the different examples Aman showed you on various keywords. If you basically go through the top 5 pages and then basically ask your content writer or yourself to write a better piece than any of these 5 pages, you will usually rank higher over time.
Mm-hmm. The difficulty comes in, say you're going for a very competitive piece, you need to add your own data layer on top. And this is where you get to top 1% SEO, where everyone's sort of saying the same thing. It's sort of like generalized content, at which point you need to add your own turn or add your own spin on it, which gets really valuable too. Is there a way to know the percentage of our target audience in a particular keyword? If yes, will this help choose the best keyword to go after if our budget is tight? Short answer, it depends where you want to get this data from. You kind of have to understand your target demographic really well and understand what they're searching. There's no tool that could probably tell you your target audience Googles that particular keyword. But you can test for it by, say, I don't know, running Google ads or or writing that piece of content. If you have multiple category pages, then can you still have just one single blog, or do you need one blog per category? There's a very specific term for this. It's called content cannibalization. So if you give that a Google, it basically means that you don't want to have 2 different pages fighting for the same keyword. Then Google gets confused, like who should I give the ranking to? So you want to make sure that each of your pages have a singular intent or singular purpose. Can you share backlink building tips? We're doing backlink building tips next week. We'll send you a link for that as well. Cool. Maybe we can go to the accelerator now, Alexi, and just explain what we're doing there.
Yep. Yeah. 1 second.
Maybe I can stop sharing as well. There you go.
All right. Yeah, cool. So yeah, tomorrow basically we are going to, so yeah, there was a question you kind of, is it a problem that you missed the first session? Well, it's not. We just covered quite a bit of stuff, which we covered last week. I mean, last week we also discussed how to, for example, build an SEO team. So this is kind of, I mean, we will publish it at some point. We're just still figuring out what the best way to do it is. But we basically discussed, you know, if you can, of course, if you have a huge budget, of course, you can build your own team, which will cost you around 15+ grand, if not more, per month. You can also work with an agency, for example, which has basically that setup and is then dedicated to you and has all the learnings from other clients. And then a lot of the clients we work with are, for example, they have a marketing manager, and then our touch point is the marketing manager, and you optimize the agency in this case. What else did we discuss last week?
Maybe for context, we actually created this SEO Accelerator series because we've run sessions, like 1-hour sessions like this with Founders Factory, various accelerators, and there's so much to go into, and I can even see in the chat, like there are so many varied questions that it's just too much to go into in an hour session. So we basically created a 4-week session where we go over into, like, 1 day is just purely about strategy, 1 day is purely about content, 1 day is purely about backlinks, 1 day is purely about tech. So the next session is purely about content. So I think a lot of your questions will be there. Yeah.
So basically tomorrow we will look into, for example, how do you actually figure out whether content ranks or not, whether it works or if it doesn't, right? What are the different indicators? We'll also touch on, for example, that kind of cluster research even more, and then a few other things, and then we'll probably also repeat a few things from our last session for whoever missed the last session. I think one important thing is that slide, which, again, given that we probably work with more than 40 companies now, both B2B, B2C, SaaS, fintech, CBD, adult, whatever, gambling, crypto, we know that, for example, the forecasting, for example, a lot of people ask, okay, what is the ROI on SEO? And usually it really depends on your niche, but there's definitely an ROI. And we kind of looked at basically mapping every single client of ours and how they rank. And if you are in a highly competitive space, such as CBD, for example, where you cannot advertise on Google or Facebook, we call it high competition. So your growth will be much, much slower. If you are, for example, in a category which is, for example, actually fintech is an interesting one, because fintech, what usually happens is a lot of people raise a lot of money, and the quickest way to show growth is, for example, PPC on Google. So as a result, actually, there are not that many players who do, for example, SEO in a really, really good way. So some of the clients we have in fintech are actually seeing really good growth, similar to Spirulina Health. Again, most of the kind of drink businesses that either sell only offline, retail, out of home advertising. So we managed to grow them really, really well. So and we touch on that tomorrow as well. Yeah, are there any?
Yeah, so maybe what's a good starting budget to test SEO? We're a food as a medicine platform and are looking at ways to push content through our network of dietitians. So you're in a really interesting position, because you actually have a lot of authoritative speakers or writers already in your company, or like people that can review pieces. So you have, that's a really good benefit for SEO straight away. Good starting budget to test SEO is a really hard one. Maybe think of it in terms of how many articles can you churn out in a month, or can you write in a month? If you can write like 8 in a month, that's pretty good. You're going to see growth in a few months, and that's what you want to be going for. Our packages normally start from, like, say, 3K, mainly because we want to show the growth in 3 months at least. But the lower you put your budget, it's still fine. You're still doing SEO. It's just that it will take you longer to see ROI. And so the question is, can you stomach that length? A lot of companies that say underspend on SEO will say they will do it for 4 or 5 months. They won't see much results because they didn't spend enough, or like make enough content, and then get like sort of, oh, it didn't work for me. On the other hand, of course, if you spend too much and you do that wrong strategy, you can obviously go the wrong way too. So it's a hard one to say. But if you can do the same method, maybe like 8 articles in a month, you're on good track.
On the other question, I can just briefly answer that
Go for it, yeah.
as well. So 1 second, just wanted to show my screen as well, because it's an interesting one on videos. 1 second, let me just find yep. Cool. So the question, you mentioned that when writing about highly generalized content, one should add your own spin to it. Would this be in terms of keywords or type of content, videos, images, etc.? So again, just wanted to show you one thing here. So for example, we entered the space of Amazon aggregation, right? So after building the marketplace, we knew, okay, we can actually scale consumer businesses, and we just said, okay, let's evolve into more health and wellness and not just CBD. And so we basically wanted to rank for keywords brands on Amazon who want to sell their brand, so sellers on Amazon are searching for, and one of them was FBA aggregators. So if you if I go into that and I type in aggregators, then we are number 1, and basically and actually important to say, this we only started New Optima content, I don't know, 3-4 months ago. So before that, we were very focused on CBD and cannabis companies. But if you actually scroll down, you can see that it's a list of various aggregators. Obviously, we put ourselves as number 2 after Thrasio, which is a multi-billion company now. But ultimately, at the bottom there is a video, right? Equally, and then the video obviously leads you to our YouTube channel, and then of course from YouTube we also have a link to that video, etc., etc. So videos are definitely important, because a lot of people actually search via the video search as well. So they love searching by video search. But then also, for example, infographics and images, right? So how to protect your brand, right? Like super boring topic. And what we usually do is we take a bunch of content and we just put it in bullet points with some nice visualization. And so already that gives Google the impression that we really care about the quality, which we do, of course. But again, we still do it a lot also for Google, not just the consumer, because ultimately, yes, the consumer might look at it, but ultimately, the consumer will probably still read the article. So yeah, and then what you also have, again, like we discussed it probably even in our 3rd accelerator session, is a thing called ETA. It's expertise, trust, and authority. And usually if you actually have, for example, somebody with authority, say, for example, let's say, for example, that dietitian, food and medicine startup, you can put your dietitians, for example, as an author. They don't even need to write an article if you have their permission to put them, or maybe have a quote and then have the picture with a bio. Again, that adds a lot to this ETA ranking of Google. So yeah, basically, definitely try to put your own spin to the content to be really original, and yeah, just provide more information to the visitor. Cool, awesome. Well, guys, I mean, if you enjoyed it, subscribe to our YouTube channel, Instagram. No, just kidding. And basically see you tomorrow.
Awesome. Yeah, if you feel free to sign up to the SEO Accelerator, we're going to be there talking in depth about this topic, but like even more with the head of SEO.
Awesome.